fermented. And then dried. Green tea just dried. And oolong tea partially fermented. And so all of these come from tea leaves. So the tea leaves, right? How we process the tea leaves creates these different types of teas, right? So things like chai tea, lemon tea, all these other teas, not really tea. Okay? Everybody? Chai tea, herb tea, red singer, not really tea. We apply a tea making technique to them. We steep whatever it is. But tea is tea, right? Black tea, green tea, oolong tea. Those are the teas. Everything else is a tea technique, but not tea. Okay? Maybe not so important now, but 200 years ago, people made a big deal about this stuff, right? Tea was a thing. Right? Tea was a thing. So, have a look at those. If you're looking to study, chapter 26 is the part to study. Pay attention to things around temperatures. How hot do you need something? How hot should coffee be brewed at? How long can we hold coffee? How long can we hold coffee? All those kinds of things. All right? So I'm going to quickly run through a couple of things here around cheese. We kind of went through a lot of this stuff already. So pasteurization at 161 degrees. 161 degrees. Pasteurization, 161 degrees, 72 degrees Celsius for 15 seconds. All right, just for 15 seconds, then we're good. Raw milk, talked about that yesterday. So, 4 types of milk: cow's milk, sheep's milk, goat milk, and buffalo milk. All right, so buffalo mozzarella from buffalo milk. Process. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. Rennet, or an acid, so you can use lemon juice too, but rennet is a much better way of doing it. Separate the curds and whey, cutting, cooking, and kneading of the whey, molding, aging, ripening, and developing of blooms and washes. So we'll talk a little bit about that here now. Variables that make cheese different: types of milk used, method of curdling, temperatures during curdling, method of cutting and draining, the ways the curds are heated, pressed, or handled, and all conditions of ripening or curing. This last one, there is obviously the heating and pressing and handling, it makes a difference, but the conditions of ripening and curing are a major factor in how cheeses become what they become. Skip ahead. There we go. So bacterial ripening, so these are the classifications. We talked about this yesterday. So you can see on this one, you can see they let that's the Morbier. They let that bacterial growth right in the very middle of the chain. Right in the very middle of the chain. So unripened fresh, so that'd be fresh mozzarella, right? Bacteria ripened from the inside, washed rind, blue veined, and mold. So fresh unripened, cream cheese, cottage cheese, mascarpone, ricotta, mozzarella, feta, pickled and stored in brine. So feta's going to have a stronger flavor, and feta's definitely a goat cheese. And then this other ripening from the outside toward the center. So an underripe cheese is firm and chalky, and overripe cheese will run when it's cut. Cheese ready to eat when it bulges. 2 categories: mold, ripened, and washed rind. So washed rind is they keep on running a wash over top of the outside, and it creates this rind on the outside, right? They keep on brushing a wash over the outside, and that's what creates that rind. It's part of the reason, definitely dairy itself is expensive, but a lot of these cheeses that they have to go through all these processes to make just add cost. So brie, camembert are probably your most popular popular, mold ripened. Then washed rinds like these ones here, less popular, but still around. Mild, buttery, pungent, Belpese from Italy, Port Salut from France, Munster from Alsace. Oh, Chef Brian, Chef Roland would be so happy. Soft cheeses, soft ripened. Although they may be runny, they certainly get runny at room temperature. So blue cheese, blue-green mold cheese. So this is where they introduce this penicillium, right? So the same thing they make penicillin from, that same mold spore, they'll introduce to the cheese, and that creates these veins, right? These little blue veins in there, and it makes this cheese really distinct flavor, like strong flavor. There's some blue cheese downstairs. It's not great blue cheese downstairs, but we got some blue cheese downstairs. You can try it. It's a strong flavor for sure. Roquefort from France, Gorgonzola from Italy, Stilton from England. All very similar. Okay, all very similar. And the quality of the cheese, like Roquefort, really, I shouldn't, like any of these actually, if you buy Roquefort from France, Gorgonzola from Italy, or Stilton from England, if you're buying from the source, from those source countries, you'll find that it's significantly different flavors than like buying a Roquefort that was made in Canada, or a Gorgonzola that was made in Canada, or a Stilton that was made in Canada. You'll see significant difference in the flavors, and for sure a significant difference in the price. It's significantly higher price, but all of them have really different kind of flavor profiles, all very strong, pungent cheeses though. Stilton, we used a lot at the Hotel Vancouver when I was there. Mostly, it's funny, the chef was Italian, so we had lots of Italian stuff, but because the hotel had British roots, there's all this British stuff that was in there as well. So Stilton was a big part of what we used at the Hotel Van, because it was originally sort of a British company that was running the hotel. So the curds are infused with that bacterial culture. Cave aging goes on. Holes are drilled in the cheese to allow the penetration of oxygen and promote the culture growth. So how they get they drill holes in the cheese, and that lets the penicillium get spread out amongst all of the cheeses. Raclette? Yeah, raclette's so nice. Swiss. So hard cheeses, varying degrees of texture and sharpness, melts easily. So cheddar, Gruyere, Emmentaler, Edam, Gouda, Provolone, all very similar textures, very different flavors, right? English cheddar, definitely sharp, just a really sharp flavor. And I mean, if you don't understand what that means, it's kind of difficult to explain, but English cheddar is going to have a real sharpness to it, and it not necessarily, some might be a little too much, but generally it's a pleasant flavor. A Gruyere usually a milder flavor, Emmentaler usually milder, Edam and Gouda definitely milder, and Provolone. The Gruyere can get a little sharp too every once in a while, but of these cheeses, the cheddar would be the one that definitely would have the sharpest flavor. And then hard cheese. So, and these ones are all cheeses that we would grate, sometimes shave. I was a big proponent of Asiago when I was there. I loved Asiago. I was using Asiago all the time. But Parmigiano Reggiano, Grana Padano, Romano, Pecorino, Asiago. These four varying degrees of, I don't want to say nuttiness, but there is a nuttiness to it. The Pecorino, because it's coming from sheep's milk, much sharper, more distinct flavor. Not like Parmesan. It's not like Parmesan cheese. It looks like Parmesan cheese. It's a lighter texture, a lighter color than Parmesan cheese, but very sharp flavor, really sharp flavor. And Pecorino has a real tendency to dominate whatever it's in. If you put Pecorino into something, it will. It doesn't make sense to put Pecorino in with two other cheeses because it's going to just all you're going to taste is the Pecorino. Oops. One step here. Yeah, aging this. So these characteristics in flavor and texture, environmental. So cave aged and cellars, wrapping in vegetable ash, this ash wrap, and then wrapping in hay. So there's lots of this cave aged cellaring. That's what we got going on here. And you can see, right, what they do is they just put these in racks, and they'll rotate these racks around, and they'll actually turn the cheese in the racks too. Like you start at the beginning of the week, and you know, the next week comes, start turning again, right? This ash cheese, a lot of local cheeses are doing this ash coating on the outside. Salt Spring Island, I think I think Salt Spring Island has a really good one. There's a couple of really good local, local cheeses that have that kind of pyramid look to it, and really, really interesting flavors. And then hay. Whatever you let the cheese touch and be around, it's going to absorb those flavors, right? It's going to absorb those flavors and create something distinct. And that's what cheesemakers are looking for. Processed cheese, I'm not sure if that's really cheese. Soy-based cheese, nut-based cheese, nutritional yeast. So nutritional yeast, that's vegans. Vegans looking for cheese, they'll use nutritional yeast to get. You don't really get a cheese, but you get something that's cheese-like. Okay. Nutritional yeast you can use for a lot of different things. There was actually, when I was teaching Block 12, one of the things that I had the students do, they had to come up with a special for the class. So, it was always kind of tough because the people at the beginning of the month they had 1 or 2 days to figure out the special, whereas people at the end of the month had a lot of time. But this one, Christmas time, this one student wanted to do, his girlfriend was vegan, so he'd done a lot of vegan cooking, so he wanted to do a vegan Christmas meal. Turkey, stuffing, potatoes, the whole 9 yards. And I gotta say, he used a lot of nutritional yeast in that. I was blown away with actually how good it tasted. It was a process though, man. To get the turkey was like a 3-day process to get. You had to hang it, like make it, hang it, dry it out, and get it to the point where. But it was, I mean, it's not real turkey, but it was good. It was pretty damn good. It was pretty damn good for what I know is just a bunch of vegetables. Yeah. Right? Yeah, it was. So it can be done. Guidelines for cooking with cheese. You want to go low temperature. All right. Usually low temperature. If you go high temperature, it's going to melt and burn. High protein. So at higher temperatures, it toughens and becomes stringy when heated. So inside omelets, brilliant, right? Because it's low temp. Same with what we're going to do tomorrow with the quiche. We're going to do it in the Rationale, probably about 88 degrees Celsius, and do it 60% moist, 40% dry. So we'll mess around with the timing. Great cheese for quicker melting time. Aged cheese melts and blends better than young cheeses. So the older the cheese, the better you're going to get in terms of blending. So what we're going to do tomorrow is we're going to grate a bunch of those rinds that we have. We can do that maybe today. Grate up a bunch of the Parmesan rinds and put that inside the quiche. And aged cheese has way more flavor than young cheese. Young cheeses that haven't been aged for any amount of time don't have a lot of complex flavors at all. storing, high cost of cheese is needed to treat efficient wrapping. So really, what we in the modern world, we want to cryovac everything, right? We want to cryovac everything, get it into a bag. That way, we're not absorbing any other flavors within the kitchen. We're keeping it in its own environment. And once you get it cryovac, the molding process is almost eliminated because there's no air. There's no longer any air touching the cheese. I mean, obviously, you can't leave it in there forever, but your shelf life is way extended. And with the price of cheese these days, we want to make sure that we use everything. Soft ripened cheeses matures and deteriorates quickly. So yeah, we only want to purchase what we need in those soft cheeses. And yeah, freezing cheese, and that's a last resort. Yeah, it doesn't. You don't get a good result. You don't get a good result. The only, last resort, and then really the only thing you can do with that cheese is cook it. You can't serve it as cheese. Like you couldn't. Yeah, no. It's not gonna. It never comes back. It loses too much moisture in the freezing process, right? Because what freezes when we freeze? The water inside there freezes, and then when it releases all this water, so you're left with this really kind of nasty. That it doesn't really work. All right, so how to set a cheese platter. So we want to have 3 to 5 different varieties and assorted textures. We're looking for soft, hard, and meaty soft, right? We're looking for assorted different types, assorted ages, different milks, have some pre-sliced and some cubed, and then dried fruits, jams, jellies, and breads, grapes, nuts, crackers, mustard, any kind of relishes, any of that kind of stuff. Anything that is going to make it more interesting. And cheese boards, if you order them in restaurants, you'll see ridiculously expensive. Ridiculously expensive. And from my perspective, I love cheese, so I eat lots of cheese. I love cheese. So I never order a cheese board in a restaurant because the $80 I spend on a cheese board in a restaurant, I can buy so much more cheese, more Benton Brothers or Leslie de Fromage or even Whole Foods. $80 buys a lot of cheese, right? So, yeah. Oh man, well think about it. Yeah. Right? Think about it. The cheese alone, right? Like that Montmorency cheese we got, that big block of Montmorency, $175. Right? $175. That's how much those things cost, right? So if you're selling in a restaurant, there's got to be markup, right? I saw this on the news yesterday. So we all know about the tariffs, right? Tariffs, Donald Trump tariffs. So they're talking about Nike, right? They're talking about Nike and how, and this applies to restaurant businesses, right? So what they say is Nike makes their shoes in China, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, right? Those are the main places where the shoes are made. And somewhere, each shoe somewhere, if the shoe costs $100, if the shoe retails for $100, Nike has it made in those countries, and it costs about $20 to make the shoe, right? So $20 to make the shoe. Then they got to ship the shoe, market the shoe, do all the things that Nike has to do to have the shoe. So it comes to Canada. It comes to Canada, right? It comes to Canada. And now that shoe is $50, right? And in that, Nike makes about $5. Right? So in this process of getting it to Canada and selling it to the retailer, Nike makes about $5 a shoe. Then they sell it to the retailer. Now the retailer buys it for $50, sells it for $100, and in that $50, they got to pay employees, pay rent, insurance, marketing, all of that stuff. Right? So what started out as a $20 shoe ends up being a $100 shoe. And now we're going to put tariffs on top of that. Or build the shoe here. So they said, oh yeah, to build the shoe here in Canada, it would cost about $70.
And that would be way more stuff, even more.
Now that $100 shoe becomes $400. Yeah. So no one's gonna, and we all know, $100 for a shoe, $100, $400, who's gonna pay $400 for a shoe? Well, yeah, some shoes people pay a whole bunch of money for, but not just a regular shoe. This same idea applies to restaurants. Okay? The same idea applies to restaurants because, Chef Ryan, right, Chef Ryan? So Chef Ryan and I worked together in the Okanagan, right? And anybody been to the Okanagan before? Up to Kelowna? Yeah. Okay. So who lives in Kelowna? Old people live in Kelowna. Retired people live in Kelowna. That is 100% the truth. And the next time you see Chef Ryan, you can ask him if this is the truth, right? This is $1997, $98, so not even close to what we're selling stuff today for. But Dave would try and keep prices kind of reasonable because we knew we were dealing with retired people, right? So a chicken breast. We had a chicken breast on the dining room. I was a dining room chef. We had a chicken breast on the dining room menu for $19. Right? $19. You know what the old people used to say all the time? $19 for chicken breast. I can buy a chicken breast in the store for $2. Why would I spend $19 on a chicken breast when I can buy it for $2? Right? But in that $19, what's got to come out of that? Your pay. Right? Buying the chicken breast has to come out of that. Processing the chicken breast has to come out of that. Cooking the chicken breast has to come out of that. Paying the light bill, the insurance, the heat, all of the things that we need to keep the building up, the maintenance up. Everything comes out of this price. This is the only thing we're making money on. Well, and booze. Right? This is where we make our money. So restaurants are right now being squeezed from every which way. Right? There's a big issue right now with restaurants because this price has gone even pre-pandemic. Let's talk pre-pandemic. Even then it was kind of ridiculous.
6 years ago.
Yeah, pre-pandemic, pretty much my wife and I could go to Cactus Club and I could have a beer and we could get out of there for $75. Right? 2 meals, maybe some little chicken wings or something to start. Right? Now, today, I can't go to Cactus Club and spend less than $140. I don't know how you do it. Maybe there's a way to come to do it that way, but my wife wants what she wants. She wants a glass of wine. She can have a glass of wine, right? I'm gonna have a beer, right? Even the burgers are like $35. What? Yeah. Yeah. Take a look at the menus.
I haven't been in Texas for a while.
Take a look at the menus, right? So that's supposed to be casual fine dining. This is supposed to be entry level, right? This is supposed to be the mass-produced, we're just feeding the people, right? It's not even a fancy restaurant. Go to Published on Main. Go look at Published on Main. Look at the menus of Published on Main, okay? I've been there 3 times. I'm not going to go back. I don't need to go back. I've been there 3 times, right? But each time I've been there, for 2 people. And I brought my own wine twice. 2 times I brought my own wine. So there's a $25 I think it was a $25 clothing fee, which isn't, $25 is reasonable, right? $25 is reasonable. So that means they're just charging me to open the bottle of wine. That's all good, right? About $350. Easy. And you can go way beyond.
Look at it.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Bison Rossini, $82.
$82. And guess what? You're going to get like 5 bites.
Valley Duck, $59. Spring Chicken, $49.
Mm-hmm.
Candied Steelhead, that sounds great.
And it's
$49.
beautiful.
Oh, I bet.
It's beautiful. So my wife is Jamaican. Her cousin came up from Dallas. And before she came here, she said, oh, my coworker told me there's lots of great restaurants, and I want to go to a good restaurant. Oh, okay, yeah, we'll go to Publish, right? And just called, and because it was midweek, no problem. We got in at 9:30, right? We got in at 9:30. I was shocked that we even got a table at 9:30. So we got in at 9:30. So she's all excited about coming to this restaurant. And her coworkers, everybody's looking at the menu online. Oh my God, it's gonna be so nice. Oh my God, it's gonna be so nice, right? We go there, we eat there, and yeah. She said, so is this what rich people eat? I go, well, not all the time, but this is what people like. And she said, the portions aren't very big. I mean, I know the portions aren't very big. She goes, I'm still kind of hungry. I said, well, we can order some more food. We can order more. I said, we're going to order more stuff. I said, we can order more buns. Order the milk buns. The milk buns are awesome, all right? So, yeah, ordered a couple more buns and, a couple of other small things, but still, about $445, right? A couple of cocktail before, glass of wine with. It was about $450. $450.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but think about it. Think about it. The level of service.
Oh, of course.
Right? The level of service.
Good service.
There's a waiter. There's at least 3 food runners. There's a sommelier. And I counted about 9 people working in the kitchen. Now, I don't know what everybody's making, but the level of service and the attention to detail of the plates and stuff like that, yeah, it's a lot, right? So this idea of markup that you're just throwing on our $20 pair of shoes that get made in China or Vietnam or Cambodia or Thailand, right? On that $20 pair of shoes, all to get to that $100, this $80 here, right? That's what somebody's making. No one's making that, right? No one's making $80 off of that $100 pair of shoes. There's a bunch of people who perform a function to get here, right? There's value added in each step of the way. So when it sits in a warehouse, even just sitting in a warehouse, costs money, right? Even though it's just sitting in a warehouse, it's costing money because you got to heat the warehouse, you got to have staff in the warehouse, you got to have some kind of management, inventory management system within the warehouse to know where stuff is in the warehouse, right? So even though it's just sitting on a shelf in a warehouse, it's accruing cost. Okay? So yes, welcome to capitalism. Everybody, this is exactly what capitalism looks like. The other system, yeah, it didn't work out, but yeah, you know why the other system didn't work out? Because the other system is communism, which my grandfather believed in. Yeah, it kind of went socialist at the end there, right? More socialist, but my grandfather believed in communism, right? Which means that everybody makes the same. Nobody makes more. The problem is that the people who are presidents and all the politicians, they don't want to be making the same as the guy who cleans the cow stalls out in the dairy farm. They want to make more. So it's not really communism. It's something else. Right? But if everybody makes the same, right? If everybody makes the same, then that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. Yeah, different. So anybody from China here? Anybody from mainland China here? Mainland China? So there was this discussion about this as well, right? That how China can be so competitive, right? How China is so competitive on the world market, right? So, first of all, huge population, massive population, who are more than willing to go and work at these kind of jobs, right? Cost of living in China, much lower than it is here. So, yes, their wages are lower, and so they can produce things at a cheaper price, but everything else is controlled as well, so costs aren't as high, right? What's the biggest cost in Vancouver? Everybody, want to know? What's the biggest cost in Vancouver?
Housing.
Rent. First thing, when I taught Block 1, some students, oh my God, I felt so sorry for them. I don't know if anybody in this class was like this, but some students, first day of class on Monday, they arrive in Canada on Saturday. Oh, right? Arrive in Canada on Saturday. And oh yeah, I'm in an Airbnb for 3 or 4 days. I'm going to find a place to live. Oh, really? Oh, really? You got 3 or 4 days in the Airbnb, you're going to find, oh boy, okay, good luck. Right? And then they start to find out, oh my God, Chef, where are you living? I'm living in an apartment with 6 other people. Well, I'm not going to stay there for long, but it's the only place I could find. Crazy, right? Crazy how much it costs to live here. Other countries, different level of life, right? So, kind of lost the thread here, but this idea that restaurants are just ripping you off, not true, right? There's costs involved with everything, and the same way that you have to pay this outrageous rent for your apartment, the restaurants have to pay outrageous rent for the space they're in, right? So we're going to get really deep in the weeds here, but there's this thing called triple net. Triple net. You're only going to know this term if you ever tried to lease a commercial space. Right? Triple net. What that means is, I'm going to come and rent your space on 4th Avenue. Right? What triple net means is, I'm going to pay all of the associated costs with your space. City taxes, provincial taxes, anything to do with licensing, anything to do with the building, I'm responsible for. So a little space like this, if it's on 4th Avenue over there, right, a little space like this, how much do you think it's going to cost? A month.
5,000.
6,000.
I'm gonna also say
10. Probably about $40,000 a month. Wow.
Oh, whoa.
$40,000 a month. Back when I was interested in buying a restaurant, interested in running a restaurant, there was a space that came available down, you know where Joe Fortes is, over on Thurlow there? There was a space that came available downstairs, right? It was a restaurant space, so there was already stuff in there for a restaurant. We went and looked at it. You know what this is in 2002. 2002, they wanted $110,000 a month. $110,000 a month.
Whoa.
That's a lot of $19 chickens. That's a lot of $19 chickens. So restaurants are in a tough spot, right?
Do people generally rent and rather than own the building?
Well, if you can own the building, good luck.
Yeah.
Because now you're going from 100. So now, I mean, that's okay. So I had friends who were developers and money guys, and they said that the way to do this is to actually make it a development project, right? Find a distressed piece of property, buy the property, and then develop the property, right? But now you're going around. Now you're chasing bigger investors, right? So for a restaurant that's already in place, maybe you can open for $150,000, right? Redo the interior, fix up the kitchen, so I'm looking for $150,000. I got a certain amount of sweat equity I'm willing to put into the restaurant, and I got $10,000. So now I got to find out another $140,000, $150,000. If we're talking about a real estate deal, now we're not talking about 150, we're talking about 2.3 to $4 million, right? So bigger number. But yes, that would be the better way to do it. But now you need to have somebody.
Stressful conversation.
Oh man, yeah, restaurants. I do have one friend who's really rich. That one guy that you went to high school with. That I was lucky enough to be friends with him, and now he's done well for him. If I was really smart, I would have listened to him in 1988, right? He said, "Keith, $5,000, Keith, that's all you need, $5,000. $5,000. I'm fully invested in this. It's a mine. It's a mine in Mexico." He said the readings are great. He said there's so much gold down there. It's unbelievable how much gold is down there, Keith. $5,000. $5,000. 1988, $5,000 is a lot of money. So that $5,000. He told me like 3 or 4 years ago that mine at one point was the highest producing gold mine in the world. Like $5,000, I probably would have gotten like around $20 million. Whoa. Yeah.
Teach yourself for that one sometime.
I wouldn't be teaching here, I'll tell you that. I wouldn't be standing in front of you right now if I'll tell you that much.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean,
So, I mean, yeah. And even him. So I talked about, a long time ago, I talked to him about a restaurant. He went, "Oh yeah, Keith, I live in Toronto." He said, "You want to open a restaurant in Vancouver?" He said, "I would invest in a restaurant in Toronto only because I want to have a place I can go to whenever I want." Right? So he said, if your restaurant was in Toronto, I'll help you out. But you're in Vancouver, it doesn't make any sense. I'm only in Vancouver twice a year. Right? He said, "I want a restaurant in Toronto." He said, "Guys I know who have restaurants in Toronto," he said, "the guys who I know who invest in restaurants in Toronto, only because it makes it, you can pick up, hey, I'm coming down for dinner, I've got 8 people, and I know I can get into the restaurant anytime." Right? So, yeah, everybody has their own reasons, right? Rich people have different thought processes. Don't let them come back to me. Okay, so we're going to go downstairs. We're going to do omelet, ham and cheese omelet today, right? So let's split this up here. So from Tanya over here, you guys are going to be doing the seafood wrap today. You guys are going to be doing the ham and cheese omelet today. Okay? 3-egg omelet. You got to get 3 eggs. You're going to break them, crack them in a bowl. So, excuse me. We're going to have to get together. So it's a 3-egg omelet. Ham and cheese. Sectioned orange. All right. So 3-egg omelet, ham and cheese, sectioned orange. You're going to need, probably not everyone, but you're going to need 3 or 4 stainless steel bowls to whisk the eggs in, right? I wouldn't use the immersion blender. Let's use our whisks today because I don't know what they're going to do when you do your practical assessment, how they're going to do it, whether they'll allow you, because we'll talk about that in a second when we get to the salmon. Don't take the pans that we've been using for the service. Take the pans that are in the cage and use those for your omelets. All right. So you're going to need clarified butter. You need 3 eggs. You're going to need an orange. You're going to need some ham and some cheese. We've already cut the ham and cheese. Don't use all. Use half of the ham and cheese for today because we need some for tomorrow. Right. And some plates, right? So you're going to need that at the back. The other half, you guys are going to be doing the salmon and, or or seafood wrap. So in that particular case, I'm gonna portion up. I've cleaned the salmon already. I'm gonna portion. I think it's 90 grams. 90 grams of salmon. I'll try and hit that 90-gram mark for the salmon, and about an ounce of baby shrimp. So first thing you got to do. Oh boy, this is goofy. This is goofy, but this is how it has to be. You're gonna have to get a small pot. I've got some we got some fish stock. We'll put some acid in there, lemon juice in there, right? You're gonna have to poach the salmon, right? Then take it out, come back to the front, and cool the salmon. We're gonna mix it with the baby shrimp, and then it's essentially like making a tuna sandwich, right? You're gonna mix in green onion, celery, if we have any celery, green onion, and dill. We've got some fresh dill. So we're gonna chop the dill, mayonnaise. Oh, and you gotta make the mayonnaise, right? So 1 egg yolk, oil and vinegar, right? And again, we're gonna hold a little bit of the mayonnaise on the side, right? Hold a little bit of the mayonnaise on the side so that you can see that you made the emulsion, all right? So we're gonna poach that in the back, then come to the front, and build our sandwiches, okay? We all clear? You guys are doing omelet, you guys are doing salmon. Okay? All right, let's head downstairs. So I had to pull the beans out of the shell and just let the bottom dry out a little bit. I think they're okay. There's a couple little holes that we might get some leakage on, but I think we're going to be all right.